I bet all of you, that if you asked 100 people what most music was written about, or at least what the most music kind of shares in common, maybe 100 people, maybe 70, 65, 70, 75 of them would say the same thing. It's the big L word.
Love.
Ah.
Yeah, the New York sign.
It's the horrible one. Oh, don't say that word. 4-letter words, very bad on the show. But love, we all can say it, we all can experience it, we all can feel it, but
yeah, it's a human experience.
None of us can really put words to it.
Well, I think that's what's so appealing about it, is that it's uncapturable to some degree, like the concept of it.
Yes, absolutely. Like, especially with words or speaking, sometimes it feels so weak to like try to use words or even poetry to describe love. Although many attempts have been made and some are actually probably pretty good. But music is a different language. It's a different, it comes at you differently, right?
Yeah.
So maybe
it evokes strong feelings, evokes emotions more easily.
Yeah.
It's a good medium for
people
expressing that.
Yeah, people let it, and it does.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's no surprise that love makes its rounds.
Yeah,
throughout all music, sad, happy, it can be about love, yeah.
And intrinsically, I think there are a huge amount of love songs, but also tied in with that is the loss, like songs about loss.
So would you put it if I say that most people would say that most music is probably written about love, or the most music that is written about something in particular, it's probably love, would you say that, yes, love as it relates to loss is the next most popular thing? Or because I think there's more sad love songs than happy ones.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
Yeah, I bet you there are.
I think it's more that there are probably, I wonder what the runner-ups to love are. Mm-hmm. I think loss would be one of them. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think you're right. A good portion of that love group would tie in with loss.
Gotcha.
Because it is so, like I said, intrinsically related.
Yeah. And also I want to ask the question, can you truly love until you have lost?
Right. And the idea of finding true love too is that you have had experiences where you've lost,
Right. Those
in a lot
experiences
of cases
somehow define the context that real love actually exists in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And music is almost an analog for this, which I find insane.
Yeah, that's wild.
It's us representing this, but in an artistic way. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you could at least say a lot of music is written about love, right?
Oh yeah.
If not the most, if not the bad, a lot of it is. That it's interesting that something so indefinable is so important, right?
Yeah, I mean, from a human perspective, again, it makes sense. It's a big part of our lives.
Yeah.
And something that everyone kind of strives for, I think, at some point or another, in some way or another.
Or at least is told to strive for.
Right, and I think that's where popular culture and things get muddled.
Right, that's when sociology happens and things get complicated, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to exclude anyone who is uninterested in love or perhaps doesn't seek it. You are valid, right? That's a valid perspective. But if you
at the end of the day, there's
take a look at the world, everyone is obsessed with love. Yeah.
There's a ton of material about it.
Yeah. So, and we have experiences. We're humans, mostly.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my favorite songs are love songs.
It's true. I wouldn't say... A lot of the music I listen to actually isn't about love.
Yeah, that's also an interesting perspective.
I just realized this.
Coming from the metal side of things.
Yeah. Specifically death and black metal is, I guess, not to say that it doesn't exist, because it certainly does. But most of it's not.
Do you have any examples of...
Human love, love for another human or multiple humans. So there might be love for outer space. But,
I mean, I think that counts. We're just talking about love here in general.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you have any examples of some metal music or something that
is a love song?
Is a love song, or you could put in that bucket?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So
because I'm just personally curious.
Yeah, actually, there's he's not popular. He won't be upset to know that he's not He's not like Lamb of God or Slipknot, right? But he releases albums on Bandcamp. I think he's signed. He might just be independent. Solo instrumentalist, guitarist. He does the drums and bass and the vocals. But I believe, please, someone do the research, correct me if I'm wrong. His girlfriend died at a young age, like they were in their early 20s. And then he wrote music dedicated to his love for her and her passing to honor her memory.
Okay.
And actually he wrote these really compelling, like very technical, very progressive death metal albums with a lot of black metal influences as well. I guess I'd call them prog metal. Definitely. Yeah. It's definitely prog metal, but it has an edge, has a bite, and it's very like, I love you.
Would you say the content leans like balladly, or is it like kind of just his expression of his love for her?
I would say like half expression, half abstract, like sort of, a ballad is a good word.
Yeah.
Not that he writes like classic ballads, but you feel in a very like, I've listened to a bunch of ballads moment after hearing this album, or at least his first one, which was written specifically about her passing. But it's interesting that he wrote such a like technically compelling and very like, oh, that's impressive album. That's also very emotionally poignant and obviously written like. Actually, it's one of the few albums that I have in my library where I know was written authentically. Meaning I know it was. I know without a shadow of a doubt. I don't doubt in 1 second of my mind that it was all anything was for show. He wrote this album because he loved this girl.
He just had to make it.
Yeah. Like, and to say that there aren't like a ton of albums in my library that can live up to that, I guess that just comes down to.
I guess the good news is there's plenty out there.
There is, yeah, and I could probably have lots to discover and learn about love music or music about love and ultimately loss. But we always joke that like, you listen to like sad time music, right?
Yeah. There's a good chunk of it that's sadder in nature.
And I've never been sadder, and I'll speak personally, I've never been sadder in my life when questions of love have come up or like, and have mixed with experiences that have set me back, right? Bad experiences in life and love and loss and all the things that many people are aware of that we don't want to speak about specifically all the time, but
yeah, I mean,
we've been there and done that.
There's strong feelings,
Yeah, and it's compelling, right?
Yeah.
So but I wonder why it's. Well, I guess we could kind of tease out why heavy metal doesn't have, its huge glut of love songs, and why indie rock does, or.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a technical aspect to it. I think there's also like a culture aspect to it.
Oh yeah, I bet you. Yeah.
Like some of my best examples of love songs are from either indie music from my era of like popular music, or like, I mean, there's really just a ton of them in popular music, but like the ones I think of are mine, and then like 50s, 60s, like The Temptations, like My Girl. That was one of the first kind of love songs, but it's more like a teenage bop love song. And then like, the Beach Boys have some. There was God Only Knows is like probably one of their most famous ones, based on a Renette song, which was like from earlier.
Right.
And those were just like kind of formative songs for me as a person. But there have been equally powerful ones that are more recent, like the Yeah Yeah Yeahs have that song Maps that everyone's heard, which that's a good example of a song where I believe, if I'm remembering my music history right, it came together pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Like it's a really interesting and dynamic song, and people have already borrowed from it, even in the years since it's been out.
Yeah. But it kind of fell together.
Yeah.
Almost, yeah.
And there are a ton of examples of where that's not true. Like, I mean, another good example of like a indie song that probably a lot of people have heard, but it's not like it was a labor of love to make these songs, is The Magnetic Fields.
Yeah.
They had this huge compendium of 69 love songs. 69 nice. But one of the major hits in there was the Book of Love, which is in a bunch of movies and shows for a while.
Okay.
Stephen Merritt, the like singer for that band, is really like dramatic and has all these good like kind of cues for making like theatrical type music, and he has a really deep voice. And
So it all adds up to like I guess a powerful expression of.
it's a powerful feeling.
Yeah.
And that
yeah.
leads people to do powerful things
Yeah.
with it,
Yeah.
I think.
It makes me, and you talking about this makes me think like, is the best music about love written in those, when you're in moments where you're lovesick or heartbroken and like everything is the worst and everything sucks except for Ben and Jerry's. You like,
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
the bottom of the well, and then things start coming back up
Right.
as time goes on. But when you're at the bottom, is that where the best music would come from?
I mean, I think a lot of good love songs are written when someone is lovesick and not in love.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, yeah, because I mean, then you're like, okay, well, what? I mean, I guess you're just happy and don't care to put your energy into a song, rather. You want to put it into a person.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wonder if that's like a trend. Like that'd be an interesting thing to like kind of pull artists on. Be like, do you write your best love songs? Like, best in like numbers.
That's the thing is like it's an interesting question because it's
lovesick.
actually studyable. You could probably figure it out.
Yeah, no, there'd be a good study around that to
maybe
figure out.
someone's done it. Well, if you know, let us know. If any of you in academic music research and can say, oh yeah, we've done that.
Yeah,
let
and I'll
us
do
know,
some follow-up
please.
on that too.
Cool, because I want to read that. I'm curious.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, we could make a lot of guesses, but I think it's fair to say that
I think
you have energy when you're lovesick to make good love songs.
Yeah. I think the hard part is plugging those two things together, right? Channeling the sickness, channeling that like I need ice cream immediately and I need to cry and I need like so much to change and be different in life. Channeling that energy into creation is, I don't blame anyone for not being able to do it because it's not possible all the time. It's not possible all the time.
That's quite a state to be in.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of the other side of this whole topic is like, love songs are great, but like, what is the mental cost of like love and like, are love songs actually good for people who want to hear them?
This is getting insane.
I mean, there's just a lot of like facets to it. It's a weird thing to like.
Because you just asked the question, do you feel better after listening to a sad, like let's say a song about loss during a moment of great loss or love sickness or heart sickness or whatever it is, like, does that actually make you feel better?
Yeah. Or do you just want more of
like,
that?
And like, not just catharsis, but like actual like healing. I mean, the experience of music and listening to it is healing, but are you just like teasing at the sore wound when you listen to music about exactly what you're feeling? I don't know.
Yeah, no, and I think it's nuanced in that way.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's so nuanced that I guess you could even be deluded into thinking that, even if it's not true, or the vice versa. Like,
as we're saying this too, I'm thinking of another example of like where great kind of love loss made a record like Julia Jacklin. She's a New Zealand singer who's come into a lot of people's minds with songs lately.
Yeah.
She's had a good career, but her first record was written after she did this very like kind of swept up in the moment thing where she moved from Australia to London to like live with this guy. Didn't go well, broke up, but she wrote her first record out of all that.
Okay,
and
we know the story kind of. And the story,
But it was also like she probably wouldn't have made that record had that not gone the way it did.
And I bet you, and my estimation is that if that record landed in the record player of one person that happened to listen to it and say to themselves, wow, this person feels what I feel, I don't feel alone anymore, I would say that artist's effort has already had a bigger positive impact on the world than I think most people can even imagine.
Well, I think that did happen, and I think
exactly
it happened over and over. I guess what I wonder is,
we
like,
just answered our question.
Would she have made that record had that gone well, that relationship?
Right.
Or like, would she have made as good a record? it's kind of you get into the conversation of like, do artists need to be in pain to make good art?
Right, right. That's the big umbrella question, and I know that's been asked many times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Steering to not open up that debate as it's probably been done in so many conversations.
Yeah, and I mean
but it is relevant.
It's not good to be in pain, so I'm not going to argue for that side of it ever.
Yeah, we're never going to say you need to intentionally putting yourself into suffering to generate an artistic result. I've always been I got to look into that further to really question if that's good or not.
Yeah.
Because there can be an artistic way to maybe do it, but I don't think that seeking what other people seek to avoid just to experience it, just to make art about it is necessarily the right pattern.
Or getting your mindset into a place where you think you need to do something to make good art.
Yeah.
That's detrimental to you.
Plenty of cutting edge art and amazing music has been made by people who are extremely satisfied and happy. I mean, not everyone's perfect, but people who are, we may say from outside, well-adjusted.
Yeah, you don't need to be sick or mentally unwell to make good art.
But when you are sick and mentally unwell, there's something about music, especially music by people who are also experiencing analog or similar things.
It can be therapeutic.
Extremely therapeutic. We all know this from experience, right? Yeah. That effect has always baffled me as a metalhead, because I can describe metal as literally that which is think of horror as an analog for loss, right? Loss and horror, kind of bad, very bottom of the barrel negative feelings. And you can be horrified by loss, and of course loss can cause all kinds of horror in your life.
Right.
I just think it's crazy that I can sit there and listen to music about horror that sounds horrible in almost an objective way, and has a lot to do with things that are horror related, and yet all I feel is positive. All I feel is a positive surge, or a positive reinvigoration, or a commiseration with it, and it never fails. It's good every time.
Yeah.
And
no, I think it's similar with that whole genre of horror.
Absolutely,
people who are fans of it are usually very kind people.
We know this from personal experience, and you can probably do studies on this too. But we all know the horror nerds and the metalheads are all actually pretty kind of aware of themselves, chill people. I mean, you can't speak for everyone, but
yeah. But no, I mean, it seems to bring out the better part of people, right? Rather than what new or mainstream media would have us believe, which is that it incites horror, incites violence.
It's almost like the opposite is true.
Yeah.
From your intuition, and this is a big learning point, because you start talking about intuition, love, and doing opposite things from what you normally do, and you're already describing the hell worlds of many people who are in lovesickness and in terrible relationships, or dealing with the loss of attraction and love, stuff like that. So I know it can sink people down to the lowest, points. Because suddenly nothing else is relevant.
Well, that's a good segue into talking about lost songs, those sorts of songs. I think it's culturally more acceptable to sing about a lot of things related to death and loss in songs than it is to even say those things, which is a weird, interesting thing too. Do you remember when Johnny Cash covered that 9 Inch Nails song, I Hurt Myself Today, that one?
No, I mean, I should know that.
I forget the title of it. I think it was, I just remember that was the lead hook.
Okay.
But it was a top 10 MTV song for a year or two. And it was just this old man singing about himself dying, because it was towards the end. And it hit. It was mainstream media. It was very popular song.
You know what my favorite David Bowie album is, right?
No, which one?
The last one.
Oh yeah,
Black Star.
Black Star.
Black Star.
We talked about that a lot. Yeah.
It is. Yeah, that album's almost unlistenable because it's so good.
It's so good, yeah.
In my opinion, it is. Without him just literally telling you, "This is my last album. I'm dying."
Right.
You hear it and you know it. Like,
Well, and him
yeah,
having to do all, like making himself do all that too. It's like harrowing to even imagine.
I know.
Like the one song Lazarus, like that was really good.
Man, I get goosebumps
Yeah.
just thinking about that album. I gotta listen to that again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I that's one of those albums that I'm careful about touching, because I like thinking about that album, because it really showcases like, and you mentioned pop and popular music earlier, and it really showcases like maybe the best love songs are from, I guess, what music nerds would classify as the most pannable genre, which is pop, right?
Yeah.
The most basic, the most popularized, the most commercial.
I think pop is a good medium for them.
Yeah. Because like
Definitely the most people know them. Mm-hmm. But like I said, there are a lot of good, like smaller ball examples of really, really great songs that are about love.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think pop lends itself to that topic for sure.
So the question becomes like, are the best pop songs always about love? You can probably find some good pop songs that aren't, but
yeah, but that's more interesting because they might be. I mean,
man, this if you are doing any musicology or like writing a bachelor's paper on like music, steal our ideas. Like if we're asking questions that are actually decent and haven't been answered, like write about them. Do it. If these are repeat questions, then call us uninformed and stupid. But
yeah, I do want to look up some papers on this stuff now.
Yeah,
people must have written about some of this.
And I'll be honest, I've spent time in my life like looking at academic and being in academia, but I mean looking at academic papers and journals and publishing, peer-reviewed research and stuff.
And like sociology related things.
Yeah, but I've never stepped into musicology. Music has always either been a journalistic, a photographic, or a like, or a consumption experience of just listening to it. So,
Right.
Yeah. Man, these questions are getting big and complex.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of meat on these bones.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes me laugh. I don't know. I just imagine like this musical skeleton with all this meat growing out of him. Well, I'm getting some meat on my bones.
Yeah, it's all there.
I love. No, I like, I don't know. Love is very complex and difficult, and we haven't even etched microscopically or even nanoscopically the surface of things. Like, everyone's experience with love and potentially loss is like an infinite tapestry of narratives and stories that music can only highlight or snapshot once or twice. Right?
Yeah, and it's always from a different perspective.
It is. Yeah.
And there are so many different, I mean, just the fact that people at their weddings have like a song, like that's powerful by itself. Like it's tied into the feeling and the way we express ourselves through.
Man, you just lit
love.
about 58 million neurons in my brain. I shot weddings for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And so I've seen many couples in their first songs.
Yeah,
But I've
and
never
you have
thought about it.
experience.
I've never thought about it in the context of music. I've always thought about the context of the wedding. Like, it's wedding music.
No, I mean, that was what context you were in there, but like outside of that, they had this whole relationship, and that song is one of their pillars, you know, for why they're there.
I know. Isn't there like, I don't know, tell me if I'm wrong or if it's just bad of me, but is there a cringe response to like couples and their love song? Like, oh, it's their love song. It's so cute. It's so like.
I think it probably has more to do with the couple than the song.
Gotcha. Well, some songs can be pretty cringy.
Yeah,
some love songs can be pretty cringy.
If they are, though, there better be a good story with it.
Yeah, well, maybe it's not irony. Maybe it's like they really like that song.
Then that's
good
for them.
All good for them, but should I feel bad for feeling a little cringe? I don't know. I guess I'm just human, right?
It's not your love song.
I'm just human. Love is a mystery. It's also a pain in the ass. Sometimes, right?
It feels like something we're stuck with trying to figure out.
Yeah. I don't imagine anyone on their wedding day is like, wow, love is a pain in the ass. But sometimes you're up against the fact that love requires work. Like, you don't not only, at least from my experience, you have to actively nurture it. like you have, as you get older, you actively have to like nurture your mind and like keep learning, actively trying and learning. We're not sponges as we used to be. I think love is the same way. It strengthens over time, but only when you like give it what it needs to build those.
Yeah, no, I agree. I
Build
think
that
it's
strength. Yeah.
especially between people. It's like it's not a given.
No, and nothing is like 100% mesh. There's no like perfect symbiosis maybe there is in the universe, but not among people, right?
Yeah.
There's always clash, there's always conflict, there's always pain, there's always suffering. No one lives completely perfect, happy lives. And I think as that relates to music, we have to think like, is it, at what point does the music become a burden even, or like a catch-all, or like an empty dive into just catharsis, right? Of just like the ice cream itself on a sad day, right? Crying in front of the fireplace or something.
Yeah, you're saying like at what point does the music become
At what,
more
just
of an
representation.
enabling bad habits, or
Yeah, either that or like, can it become an addiction? Can it become a, like, where you put your problems away and then like they feel resolved because you have some catharsis?
use it as a way to not deal with them.
Like I only mention this, I'm not accusing anyone of this or like saying this is like,
No.
I do this.
Yeah, I think it's
I do this.
I think it's escapism.
Yeah.
Like
It is. I do this. And like, I'm not ashamed to admit it. It is escapism. And I think even though the music I listen to is not primarily written about love all the time, like, you know, like when I am in moments of pain due to love or pain from love, it's like the music does give me the escape, and I search for it and I want it, and I take it when I want it.
yeah, brings you that comfort.
Yeah, and it's hard to resist. And I think some of that comfort's genuine and some is like just relieving the pain or just like a Tylenol for it.
I mean, I think that sort of ethos around it relates more to loss, honestly. Because like songs about loss can be cathartic and bonding in that same way.
Yeah.
Like especially if it's about something like directly relatable, which a lot of people have songs about where it's like a relative or a parent or
Right.
you know, something that's like, hey, this is a huge loss and here's my like tribute to them, or like my story about them.
It is interesting, and I think we've pretty much established like love and loss are so intertwined, because loss is defined by, you know, love that's now gone, because the target of the love is unfortunately gone too.
Yeah.
Like
And-
loss, like to say loss, you immediately imply love.
When this relates to another idea we were going to talk about, but like nature doesn't like space. So like when love is gone, loss fills that space.
Yes. We were talking about this off camera just more casually, and I do think it's important to talk about, because it's a good point, is like where there are gaps, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's kind of what you're saying, where there are gaps, nature tends to fill it with something.
Yeah, if there's a need or a role to be filled, nature will fill it. Whether it's part of a cell or a spot in an ecosystem that needs to be filled, or literal space.
Yeah, and I think that mechanism is what helps it maintain balance and thus keeps it continuing.
Yeah, definitely.
Generation after generation, but
proliferates.
Yeah, well, you can extrapolate this to like not just like cells or biology or even the rigorous mechanics of like atoms and stuff, but like you can actually talk about soft topics with this logic or this thought or way of thinking.
Like in that way we just did, where, you know, love is gone, loss fills the space.
Yeah, just
Or
one
something
perspective,
else.
but what's cool about all these perspectives is that you kind of take bits and pieces from them and you build the narrative of your own story, so to speak, right?
Yeah, and an understanding in the world that you live in.
Yeah. By no means do we purport to be masters or know anything more than anyone else on love.
But I think that's a broader goal,
Yeah.
at least for me, is like to try to build an understanding of like the world that I live in, whether it's through like projects like this or my work or my relationships. Like,
yeah,
you're trying to build context, or at least I am.
I think music and to exactly what you said, music exists in all these levels that you're identifying. Music is there in different ways to help you not just cope, but like make meaning around this kind of stuff, right? To put into like emotional context, maybe some of what you're experiencing, but can't really describe in words. So, but you have a song that can say it perfectly.
Well, I think that's why music is so strong in these regards, is because it's such an accessible way to make meaning and make meaning that's communicable, across a lot of boundaries.
Social meaning.
Yeah. Social meaning, but meaning across cultures. Like, English songs are still mostly what the world listens to. I mean, outside of China probably, but a lot of people...
You're saying Western music has its dominance.
No, I'm just saying that any person who doesn't speak English probably has listened to English songs.
Okay, gotcha.
Because they convey that meaning or they have that context without having to understand the language.
Right.
And the reverse is true. It's just not on a large scale.
And I think it's pretty well agreed that love and loss are universals too. Musically, all these things we are talking about are, I think, human universals, which makes them easy to talk about because we all sort of know what we're talking about, but it makes them very hard to talk about because
you don't want to.
Everyone's experience is different. You never want to say someone is doing this or that or different. I've never personally wanted to pass judgment on anyone's love or loss, of course. Like, who am I to say what that person feels?
No, but I think it's safe to say if you're seeking love and loss, seeking love means accepting loss. They're tied together.
Another goddamn good point. On fire.
I mean, it's kind of the same point, but
but like it restates it in an interesting way. Is like you are accepting when you experience the feeling of love and you engage with it and you nurture it and grow it. I think we all know the risk of loss grows greater and greater.
Yeah, either you lose the feeling or you lose the person. Right. Like, it's not.
And the greater the feeling, the greater the loss.
Yeah.
I know that's like an unfair mechanic, right? It's like you get the harder the more you experience and the better you like put your energy into this universally positive thing that is love, the bigger the risk is that the worst thing will happen, right?
I don't even know if it's risk. I think it's just your debt gets bigger.
Okay. That might be a more accurate way to put it.
I don't know. Because, like, maybe you'll get lucky and die first, Yeah.
We're getting a little karmic, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's actually a fair enough perspective, honestly. Like, it describes the same thing we all observe, is that we willingly enter into this emotion because the payoffs outweigh the risks.
Yeah, and we do that with a lot of things.
And I'll say that about music too.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are risks to, like we mentioned, like you could use it as like an empty escape, right? Or just continued distraction even. And I've done this myself. But I will accept that risk or that negative for all the benefits it provides.
Yeah, and I'm guilty of doing the same sort of thing too. Yeah. I mean, you don't really realize you're doing it until you have done it for a while. Yeah.
I think it's just totally normal, right?
Yeah.
But it's something I like to recognize about myself and at least be aware of. Because when it comes to just super strong emotions in general, like I try to be as aware of how this music is affecting me, because I don't ever want to be like led astray or pushed away by music. Not that I think it would do that to me, but we can use that even as an analog for love. Is like, can love ever lead you astray? Can like...
I think it can.
Yeah.
I mean, I think both things can.
Can what's great, we can say that about music or love, suddenly, like even writing music, can it take a bad turn?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think the answer is definitively yes for me. But I think, again, it goes back to just understanding context and meaning and like what it is you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Because you can do something for a very long time and then realize like, oh, I never should have done that.
Yeah. I guess the question becomes like, do you spend time regretting it, or do you spend that time like making changes?
I mean, I'd like to say you spend that time making
Yeah,
changes.
but not all of us can. None of us can do that. It's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to say I'd like as like a funny catchphrase, like no regrets all the time.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, well, that probably sounds foolish because like if you don't have regrets, you never tried anything.
No, I agree with
Whether
you.
you dwell on them or not
Yeah.
is another conversation. But
I guess you could have tried many things and just be that kind of person that just never regrets a goddamn thing. But we're almost getting to like a pathological sort of thing, maybe.
maybe, but
Like literally incapable of
I feel like
feeling
that
regret.
person is lying to themselves.
Yeah, like that would be weird if you were incapable of feeling regret or were so deluded
Yeah.
that you just never felt it.
Or if you've never had a choice where it was
Right.
however many choices you had and you didn't regret any of them. I've never been put on a road where like one side was always clearly the right choice.
Right. Well, that's another big goddamn lesson, right? Yeah. You know, like, I guess the decision points are so important, right? With love, like, do you decide to move in with the person? Is it the right time? Like, you could, there's, I bet you know, like, and I've had this too, where like a big moment was coming up where something was going to change in the relationship. You know, whether this was like a teenage relationship or in my 20s or anything. And like, I always found music at the point that felt so specifically right for that sort of thing, even though it had nothing to do with it specifically.
Yeah, I always would make playlists
Yeah,
for like people or moments.
yeah. There's like, of course you got breakup music, and then you have like hookup music, and then you have like romance music, and all the sort of stages.
All the subgenres of
Yeah.
love music.
Yeah, we filled it all. Humans have filled it all out, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, we could sit here and say that music is just love and poetry, and we would probably be right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a song for every scenario.
Yeah. And like, yeah, universals. I'm glad they exist because it proves that, hey, like, we probably shouldn't be blowing each other up. You know, we should focus on the things that we all kind of experience
Yeah.
and have in common, which are very powerful.
Yeah. And very like easy to lean into if we choose to.
Yeah. Like, it's as easy as listening to a song, which is probably one of the easiest things anyone can do is listen to music.
Yeah.
The only action that's required is activating the music.
Yeah. Tune in and tune out.
Yeah. And like, I could do that with my voice right now in smart home. Yeah. I'm like caught up in thought too, at the same time of like personal experiences with love and music, because there's just been so many times where love didn't work out, or love seemed like it was working out. And then I had the song, I had the music, and it like was very exciting and very compelling, whether on the negative scale or the positive scale. It was very much loud and present.
Yeah. I think love as an emotion is really good at hijacking you to like feel heightened emotions either way.
Yeah. Music does the same, right?
Yeah. But music enhances it in that case, I think.
Yeah.
Which is a good and a bad thing.
Yeah. You got to be careful with it. It's almost like it's potent. It can be potent.
I mean, it's like drugs.
Yeah, a little bit. Music is drugs. Yeah, drugs.
Well, music and love coupled,
Yeah.
I think, are
Yeah.
a good drug.
We're at minimum, we're getting into like druggy kind of like feelings and territory, right?
Yeah.
When we talk about these things, and I think the fact that that is an element of them just shows how universal these things are.
Yeah,
Right.
and how powerful they are.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's funny. We off camera too. We were talking about, and we're just morbid, I guess. We were like, we got onto funerals.
Yeah.
I mean, loss, obvious. And then you asked, is there the opposite of love music? Like if there's wedding music, there's funeral music, but not funeral music that is chosen for your funeral, but funeral music that the deceased had, prior to being deceased, chosen themselves.
Right. Like a
Does that happen?
mixtape or a song.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it does. I don't hear about it as commonly as a wedding song.
I've tweeted about that before, actually, years ago. I had this fantasy, not fantasy of my own death, but like fantasy of like forcing people at my funeral as a joke to listen to, and we have an episode on Bell Witch's entire Mirror Reaper album, which is like an hour and a half long.
Oh yeah, we did talk about
Yeah.
this because I remember saying the song I chose that I would like would be the Does, like This Is the Day.
This is the day.
Yeah,
Nice.
that was a good song for
Nice.
a funeral. It's not like too sad or too upbeat. That's like in between.
I feel like only you would pick that song because that song would be perfect for only you, right? Like, yeah,
It makes sense for me.
yeah,
I think.
I like that. That's perfect because like it's a representation of how you want people to feel and see you, but also how you truly feel and see yourself, maybe.
Yeah, and it's weird too because I don't really listen to them, so it's just really that song that made sense. I was like, oh, that'd be a good funeral song for me.
Hell yeah! And like to be honest, I can't sit there and digest an hour and a half long Funeral Doom album and really feel the impact of it if I'm not in the kind of perfect mood for it. And not that I want to be in a mood of loss, and not that I want to catalyze the loss moods of those at my funeral, but I do truly want anyone at my funeral to have to sit and listen to the whole fucking thing because it's that good. And then I'll be happy. Then let me go. Then put me in the ground, put the dirt on, and then walk away.
Those are the terms.
It's all good, yeah. But listen to that album, and I want a tear to come down your face and just feel it because it's. And also, joking aside, and levity aside, like, it is a very dead serious album about friends and love between friends. Like genuine platonic love is true and real and is good. Mm-hmm. They lost a friend, and that album is in their honor. It's about loss, and it's about therefore it's about love. And maybe that's a good point to like sort of like, I don't know, not bury the hatchet, but plant a seed is like, I guess, planting the seed of like, I'm trying to think. Edit.
What's your thought?
Plant the seed of like, I was trying to say something other than the universality of it. I'll back up to Funeral Doom. And like, so at my funeral, like, of course, we'll have everyone suffering, both to my loss, but also the song itself. Mm-hmm. All joking and levity aside, it truly is an album about loss, and it demonstrates almost so horrifyingly the feeling of loss, because the people who wrote that album experienced it, the loss of a friend who they loved.
Right.
And I think what we can extrapolate from that, of course, is that, of course, love and loss forever intertwined, and that these things grow so complex that we have to start relying on like things as abstract as music to describe them.
Yeah.
And so I guess my question is like, can you go further than music?
Oh, certainly.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still a little stuck on that point where I think someone having a love song at a funeral will be acceptable. Because it's like...
I think it's totally acceptable, yeah.
Yeah, they still would have felt the same way. I
think you'd probably get more tears.
Oh, yeah, it'd probably be more gut-wrenching.
Maybe my idea is no good. Maybe like the Funeral Doom album will just be a complete non-starter.
I mean,
everyone will be like rushing to the bathroom or like trying to find the concessions at my funeral.
The good thing is you would never know. So
I would if I was still alive and in my coffin.
Oh yeah. Fake death situation.
Yep.
But no, I think music as a whole, just having that power over us, even in celebrations of life, like weddings, and celebrations of death, like funerals, like, I don't know, that's powerful by itself.
It is. It almost has power before music even wields its true power. It's like powerful just in the nature of it being about those things.
Yeah, it's the great communicator.
It is. I asked the question like, what's, not to be maximalist about it, like I can tend to be because of the heavy metal thing, but like what's more? Is there more? Is there like, can you eke more feeling out of some art? Depends on the person, but
I think it's just different.
I guess I was going to say music, it is different. I think music is an ultimate form, meaning like there's no further distilling it. There's no like, and this comes from someone who is a music journalist for a decade and
Yeah.
has tried in every sentence to like come to some truth about music, but only finds more questions, right?
Hey man, what you doing by myself? If I tell you what, boy, I say, hey man, what you doing by myself? It's snatch. I say, hey man, what you doing by myself? A big fatty titty white boy. I say, hey man, what you doing by myself? It's snatch.